Coming through loud and clear.
All right. Well, I guess we'll go ahead and get started.
Yeah, sure. Why not?
Welcome to SharePoint Power Hour. We are live from Microsoft Ignite. This is so different and fun.
Yeah, this is awesome. It's a professional setup, you guys. It's professional.
Yes, like real
Got a
time.
mixer over here. I mean, it's like fancy.
Very fancy. No, well, last year it was a little more fancy.
Yeah, see that big stage back there? We were on that.
Yeah, so
They
this
demoted
year,
us a little bit.
well,
I don't know.
not us, and they did it to everybody.
Yeah,
So
yeah. It's
I
true.
think that only the people on the stage are actual Microsoft people that they're
Yeah.
interviewing, and just all the regular other podcast people just are in these podcast booths. So
Yeah.
if you are here at the conference, swing by and just walk by and wave. in the
Yeah, put
window
yourself on
and
camera if you're watching.
photobomb us. So this is welcome to SharePoint Power Hour. This is our weekly show. We do usually Wednesdays at 11 Central. So we just went with whatever time Microsoft told us we could do it
Yeah.
today. But
little later.
I'm Laura Rogers,
I'm Joelle Jobson.
and you get to see us actually in person together because she lives in Atlanta and I live in Birmingham, so we're hardly ever in person together. So this
Yeah.
is awesome.
Yeah, it's always a fun thing.
Yeah. So today we're just going to talk about conference updates, big announcements, exciting stuff. And we have the chat window going.
Yeah.
Slack, we have a Slack channel. So wherever you're watching, we have in the description of the YouTube video or whatever page you're watching us from, it's got a link to join Slack or to request to be invited. And that's where we have our conversation during our live show, which makes it fun because, it makes it more interactive.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we want to chat through some of the updates and stuff like that, but we also want to hear what you think about them. And so feel free to put your questions in there or just your comments, and we'll kind of make this a discussion. It won't be our normal demo and instructional thing that we normally do, but we'll kind of just have a chat and talk through these updates. And some of this stuff, I'm sure if you are paying attention and watching these streams, you probably have heard. But it will be cool to kind of talk through it since we often hit some of these things like, well, we wish it did this or we wish it did that. So it's kind of fun to be like,
Yeah.
it's coming.
Yeah.
It's official.
So what do we have first on our list, Joelle? We're
Well,
talk
I think
about
the
SharePoint?
biggest. Well, I think I don't know. I've seen a lot of comments in our Slack about this whole Power Automate situation. Just seen that was the first thing
may as
that
well get that
our
out of the
team out
way.
there, our Slack team, our Power Hour peeps. That's the first thing that they mentioned. So it might be helpful to kind of talk about what our thoughts are on the renaming.
They renamed Microsoft Flow. Is not called Microsoft Flow anymore. It's called
Power Automate.
and Power Apps is now called Power Apps.
Power Space Apps. Yes, very specific. Is that vindication for all the people I've corrected that do share space point? Now that we've actually put a space.
What
in
about
there.
PowerPoint?
Oh yes.
Is that in the Power?
Is that going to be power space point?
Oh my
We're just
gosh.
having fun. We're just having some fun.
We're having fun. So yeah, Microsoft Flow. We'll be changing a lot of slides and things like that.
Yeah, that is definitely one thing that obviously a lot of stuff has been branded with Flow for quite a while now, a couple of years now. So we'll definitely have to make some changes around that. But I think the thing is that the things you run, those are still flows, right?
Yeah.
So they're calling the tool Power Automate, but they're still calling the individual things flows.
Yeah.
So, I mean, at least that terminology is
not
the
too
same.
bad.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. So I'm actually doing a session this Friday here at the conference about Flow approvals with SharePoint. So I'll have to go
Yeah, kind of
adjust
adjust for that. Yeah.
my slides. Well, they told us this before Ignite, but then they
Yeah.
said you can't update your slides because
Right.
you
Just
can't
in
have
case.
anybody seeing them.
Yeah, just on the
before they
off
make the
chance. Yeah.
announcement.
So you had to
So,
wait. Yeah. Yeah, that's really interesting. But yeah. But yeah, we can jump in. So yeah, let us know what you guys think about. I'm not sure what our delay is today, obviously, since it's not our normal devices. But let us know.
It's probably 10 seconds.
Couple seconds,
yeah.
yeah. But yeah, just let us know what you guys think about Power Automate, and we'll talk more about that later.
So many cool SharePoint updates.
Oh my
gosh.
goodness.
Jeff
Yeah.
Teeper's session yesterday was packed. and I think it was yesterday. I'm losing track of days now. I think it was yesterday.
It's 5 days. It's a long conference.
Yeah. So it was yesterday, and he was talking a mile a minute, and it was amazing update
Yeah,
after
he said he had
amazing
24 vignettes, right? 24
yeah,
demo
and
vignettes,
he had
which is
the
a
demos
lot.
just most of them just pre-recorded, just because as he was talking, it was just doing it on the screen behind him, which is perfect.
Yeah.
Saves a lot of time, and it's a good way to do it.
Yeah, it is. It's a very clean way of doing it, making sure things work.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
oh my gosh.
Yeah, we can start rolling through some,
Yeah.
starting to chat through some of these things. So the SharePoint home sites, I know that was the first kind of thing that he mentioned, and I've seen a couple.
And those are
mentions of
out
that.
already. Have you
They're
seen
out.
those?
Yeah. So I saw like last week, I think, the initial, like, when you click the SharePoint app to go to the SharePoint app, I've seen where they have changed that, and so now it looks a little bit different, and it has a couple different web parts and a little bit more modern looking and stuff like that.
It doesn't have the navigation on the left
Right,
anymore.
yeah, that's gone. It kind of just looks very like lots of white space, but in a good way. It looks very like clean. So I figured that home sites were kind of going to be with that change.
I think they said that the top where it says SharePoint, you're going to be able to change that.
Yeah.
To say your company's name.
Which will be really good, because there are people that are definitely try to kind of cloak SharePoint, if you will. They kind of try
or
to
maybe
cloak
it doesn't matter what the product is called. Like this is where your intranet is. Like,
yeah, they just want to know the company thing itself, so that'll be helpful. But yeah, the home sites are rolling out. So that'll be really interesting. I haven't had a chance to go in there and mess with those yet, but it'll be good to be able to do that, certainly, on these intranets, because it can be confusing about when to go to SharePoint Home and when to go there and that kind of thing. So that'll be helpful for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think something that there was a lot of like hub site stuff that I thought was really good. Working with people on modernizing their intranets, hub sites are a big part of that, and I think a lot of the big complaints that I've heard over the last several months or year were kind of answered through some of these new features coming out. We have like the hub permissions, where they were talking about basically being able to manage permissions for an entire hub, all this connected sites from the hub itself. I wasn't sure exactly if that was AAD groups. That's something I'd probably have to look into a little bit more, if they're just talking about that, or if that's something like the targeting, or it's something where we can actually use like regular SharePoint permissions. But that was certainly interesting, and I don't think it's not out there yet, but I think it'll be cool to see kind of how that works, because I have heard people say that it's a little, so for some certain situations, it can be a little frustrating to have to manage them in every site collection, depending on, how the intranet flows. And another thing that they mention is hub analytics, so your site usage stuff that you have in there, it will roll across all your hub sites now, so your hub, everything that's connected to your hubs. And then also what I thought was really, really good, so one thing I always hear in the bigger organizations is that they want to have, like, they have multiple hub sites, but each hub site has its own navigation, right? But they still want to have global navigation. And so they were talking a little bit about how you can have this idea of associated hubs, where you can associate, like, there are two different hubs, because right now you can't connect a hub to a hub.
Right, and you're
so,
going to be able to do that.
Yeah, be able to associate them and then do some stuff with navigation. So that navigation, so you get that true global navigation, and not having to create that copy of the navigation in the other hubs. So that was really cool. And then finally, the biggest one for hubs, which has been, I've heard it pretty much from every customer I've worked with on getting, putting hubifying, is targeting navigation.
Yes.
So that's a big one. Right now in the navigation, you're not able to security trim it. So if you wanted to put a team site or something in your navigation, it's not really best practice, because your users are going to hit it and get an access denied. But in the future, now what they've announced is audience targeting for that hub navigation. So that'll be
in the
great.
demo they had like the same navigation at the top and the bottom.
Yeah, I saw that, where it was like it was actually, that was even going off of like their location, like, and it's all AAD groups, so it's the Active Directory groups. The Azure Active Directory groups.
Is it audience targeting, like building audiences in the same way we did in SharePoint?
I think it sounded like it was just using AAD groups from what I read.
Okay.
Yeah, so when I looked into, I always like take a note of the presentation and go like look and see what they've said about it. And it looked like it was Azure Active Directory groups and being able to use those. So if you had one that was like per like, your port, like he was saying, I think like your New York office and your Portland office, then you could have them have different navigation options.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's really cool. I think I see some. Let's see. I was just looking to see if there was any private channels and Teams was announced.
Oh,
Yeah, that's actually been
Steve
out
said,
for a
can
little
you
while.
audience web parts yet? I don't know if I saw them mention that.
I didn't see them. I know it's been mentioned, but they didn't specifically call that out as like part of the Ignite
Yeah.
changes. So I'm not sure. I mean, I'm sure it's probably still on their roadmap. It might just not be for this rollout.
Yeah. I think the highlighted content has audience targeting.
Does it? I feel like I've seen it. Yeah, I feel
yeah.
like I've seen it in one of the web parts. I'm not sure how functional it is yet, but I feel like I've definitely seen it for sure. All right, I'm just gonna see. I'm just looking real quick to see if we have questions out here. Like, let's see, when news and pages can go live at a set date. Yeah, that was one thing I had
Scheduled.
noted. You can schedule news and pages, to
Like you
actually show
used
up.
to be able to.
Yeah, yeah.
Back in classic publishing.
Yeah, it's funny
sites.
when you see these like features that you had in the past that are like,
Yeah.
it's good.
It's like, hey, it's back.
Yeah, like we get it at least because people need it. We didn't want it to go away.
Yeah.
Also with pages, speaking of pages, kind of farther down my list, but just wanted to mention I thought was cool is the versioning thing. Did you see where you can actually like
kind of like in Word when
Yeah.
you do the revision where you can review the differences
the
like
changes?
visually.
Yep. Yeah, and
That's
see like where
huge.
somebody has typed something and that kind of thing, and it's all like kind of highlighted and stuff. Yeah, I thought that was really neat, and that would be like an interesting thing for sure. Let's see. Yeah, private channel has been coming for a long time. Yeah, it has, but I guess they're finally pushing it. That's something people have been asking for quite
Teams
a while.
private channels.
Yeah, Teams private channels.
I wonder what that's going to be behind the scenes, like a whole other site.
Yeah, I'm really
Yeah,
curious.
that'll be interesting.
Like how? So I'm assuming that
I think
they're going to do folder level security, right? Because when you create a channel, it creates a
Yeah.
folder in the document library. So
maybe a private channel will be a whole other document library. I would
Maybe.
think that's what
That'd
I
be
would
good.
choose to do if it was up to me.
that would be a best practice, but I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what that. Let's see, was that session streamed? Trevor asked. I'm thinking you're meaning Jeff Teeper's session.
Teeper's session.
It was.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, that
It
was
was?
streamed. It was Monday afternoon around 4, and look for Jeff Teeper, and then you should be able to. I don't know the breakout
Somebody
code.
told me that they couldn't find it streamed,
Yeah.
or that it wasn't. But
Oh, yeah?
maybe I don't know.
Yeah, I was
don't
able
know why
to see
that
it.
one wasn't. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
you saw
yeah,
it,
yeah. I was able to get out there and take a
Yeah.
look at it. It may not have just been up right away. Oh, live stream. Yeah, I mean, it may not have been live. Maybe I don't know about that,
that's
but
probably what it
it's up
was.
there for now because I went back and took a look at some pieces there. The Power Virtual Agent. I'm not familiar. You can
That's
talk
like
a little bit about that.
That's
Somebody's
like
asking.
a bot, so it's going to be
Oh,
in
yes.
the Power Platform
Yeah,
family.
yeah, you were mentioning that.
Yeah, so it's going to be a friendly end user-y way, power user way to just be able to create a bot and define what it does and questions that it answers. And I haven't tried it yet myself, but it seemed they made it very simple and approachable, not like no programming involved to be able to build those. And so you could have something like a help desk in your company, or maybe and put it into Teams to where it's available directly in there.
So it's a bot. And then how does that relate to adaptive cards? Like, do you happen to know? And I might be putting you on the spot with that question.
I think
but
those are two different
they're two
things.
different things.
Yeah,
Okay.
a bot is going to respond to you like a fake
Like the
person.
bots, like the Slack bot that our Power Hour peeps
Yeah.
love so much, right?
that I defined
Yeah.
what I wanted it to say when someone said info path
Yeah.
in Slack. Anyway, so and then adaptive cards is just like a visual like formatting of something,
Yeah.
like JSON, of how you want to see your text and stuff. So
Yeah, and there's a lot. I think that's the one thing that I saw, like the theme through this was just like a lot of that kind of like those cards and bots and stuff like that. Like even with the what is it, the Project Cortex?
Oh, yeah.
It's like a big thing that they're talking about in many different, and it affects many different areas. But I thought it was really neat, like the piece where it basically collects information about like your terminologies and stuff. So like if you have a news page and you start like typing out something, and then it actually like has the hover over it, and then you hover and it looks almost like the people card you have now when you hover over a person inside of SharePoint. It has that little dropout that has like who their org chart is and all that stuff. They have one now for like the terms and like where it's used and what documents are related to and what people have it in their skills or
you could just and it's
projects
just, but
and stuff.
it's all automatic. You don't have to build
Yeah,
it from
it's
scratch.
it's like building that information over time.
Like
so.
in Wikipedia, when you see things underlined here and there, So this is just going to automatically like find
Do
terms of
that and
using your
create that.
company,
Yep.
and it creates this page about the context of that phrase. No one's creating the pages, like it
Yeah.
just automatically puts them together.
And they've tried to do that. Like, and I remember years ago, like the keyword thing. Do you remember like the keyword pages?
Yes.
And they would like
Yes.
try to do that, but it was like not that much helpful information. Was there? I think it would just like show you like where people had like in their profile, like like in their profile you would like hashtag it, and then it would show those, but then it didn't show like documents or anything like that. So it would be really cool to see how this new AI like really can get in there and bring that stuff to to the forefront.
The first thing I think of when I see that is people are going to want to customize it.
Oh yeah, of course, of course. Speaking of kind of customizing what you're talking, it kind of and I'm jumping off like topics, so I'll probably have to like find where we are. But I noticed that you can edit the search pages now, the search results page.
Oh,
Yeah. So it didn't look like there was any new it didn't look like you could like customize refiners yet. Maybe with like custom, but you could add web parts. So you could like the highlighted content web part, or you could do like different web parts on the search page, and do some different stuff there. So that's a good step in the right direction, because I know still I hear people wanting to, especially companies that had done that in 2013,
they feel like something's been taken away from them.
Yeah, definitely. So that'll be helpful. All right, let's see if we have any.
Oh, Steve says the web-based version of Visual Studio was announced.
Oh.
For all you devs out there.
That's cool. Yeah, so I wonder what so I'm curious. Now, I did not know that. I'm not a dev, so I kind of like go, no, when I hear dev sessions. But I am curious about that. Like, I wonder if that's going to be, is there like a different pricing? Because I know Visual Studio is a very expensive product. So I wonder, I'm curious. That's interesting. Yeah, that's very interesting.
Oh, and Lisa says, is Power Virtual Agent only going to be in Teams or also work on SharePoint sites?
Yeah, I'm not sure about that.
I'm not sure. I didn't hear about a web part. I know that's the only way I could think of that it would work on a SharePoint site would be as using it as a web part. But
I know they mentioned those that they are for lists that you can create cards with like JSON that the conditional formatting, the row formatting that you've had in there. I know they showed like quickly something where you could almost create like a card for an item and like show it that way.
Oh, yeah. Are we going to talk about list formatting now?
Oh yeah, let's do it. Let's jump right into list formatting.
So I don't know if any of you saw the session. It was today at 11:30, and it was all about all these amazing improvements in list formatting, and it was oh my goodness. So you have the ability to use JSON to customize the way columns look and list views and things. But now, and they had added, and I wrote a blog post about that little panel that they added for just certain column types where you had like
colors, basically.
Go ahead, pick colors. Well, it's like that on steroids now. It just gives you a whole bunch more options for how you want to format things, and you can do conditional formatting right there in that little panel, just a little WYSIWYG editor. Don't have to know JSON, which is awesome.
If then statements and all that. Yep.
Yeah. And then also all the formatting that you do or that you've done before using that tool will also go across in everywhere that you see it. When you open the list item, you'll see it in Quick Edit, you'll see it in Web Part, you'll see it in Teams. So Teams, you can have your lists in Teams. So that formatting will just carry across to everywhere that you see that list and those items. It's going to be amazing.
Yeah, it looks like they've put a lot into that, all the conditional formatting, the formatting, like whether it's the row formatting or the column formatting. They've done. Yeah. I've noticed there was a lot of features around that, so that's really, really good.
And they announced a new form editor, sort of.
Oh, there's somebody going by on the Segway. Hey. Yeah, the form editor.
That's interesting. So if you don't want to like commit to having to learn Power Apps and get dig in and customize something with Power Apps. You just want to do some small customizations on your list form. Then you'll be able to like rearrange the fields, which you could already rearrange the fields, but it was a few clicks in, and it was kind of harder for people to know that it was there.
That SharePoint PhD might have to kick in to do that.
And you can decide which fields you want to hide, which you technically could already do that too. But again, that was really intricate as far as how to make that happen. So now it's just those two things are easier, and they added conditional showing and hiding fields in your forms, and that's going to be using like an if statement, just like in Excel or Power Apps, the same kind of little syntax.
Yeah.
So it's going to have a little button in the little panel, they showed it on the right when you're customizing
Yeah,
your list
pops out.
form to do conditional customization.
Yeah, so that'll be really interesting to see. Like,
Yeah.
I'll be curious to see how popular and how helpful that is. For if people are doing those small customizations enough, or if when they customize, they tend to really customize and need power apps. So
Yeah.
it'll be interesting.
Steve says, anything on governance and best practices and how to use all these tools? Well, probably. I didn't go to any
Yeah.
governance sessions.
Those sessions tend to be later in the week too.
Yes.
I noticed that a lot of the times when you get into, and they also tend to not be by Microsoft. They tend to be
Like
by other
Sue.
people. Yes, Sue. If you see Sue Henley anywhere, definitely look at that because she's got all that good, best practice information. So look for her
Yeah.
sessions for sure.
And the good thing is that the files are in SharePoint, so whether you're using them in Teams or using them in SharePoint, or using your list in SharePoint or using it in Teams, it's all technically in the same place. So it's not
Yeah.
like you have to make a decision as to where
Yeah.
you want to go to put your files because they're in SharePoint no matter where
Yeah.
you put them.
Yeah, I think it's just the big things there I always say is understanding like the connection between teams and a team site and the connection with Office 365 groups, understanding those and then deciding which one you want to be like the forerunner for your company because like some people might want SharePoint team sites to be the primary place and then most companies are now moving where Teams is kind of like the window into those things, right?
Oh, okay.
So, like they still are connecting to SharePoint, the files are still stored in SharePoint, but they want Teams to be kind of like the where they enter that area.
Did I tell you
So-
about the session I'm doing tomorrow?
Oh, we're on the main stream. I guess the big camera came behind us a second ago. Not a great angle.
So tomorrow I'm doing a session. It's one of those 20-minute theater sessions.
Oh, yeah.
So I was inspired by our customers that have just these team sites popping up everywhere.
Yep.
And you just look through the SharePoint Admin Center, and there's this long list of sites and hundreds of sites just because someone went into Outlook and they click Create Group,
Yep.
or they went to the SharePoint Home, click Create Site, or they went to Teams and they click Create Team,
Yep.
or they went to Planner and they click Create Planner.
Yeah.
Like all these different ways people can create a new site, and they don't even know necessarily that they have a new site. It sends them the little welcome email.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of them, they create it and then they forget about it, or they
Yeah,
change
it
their
gets
mind
lost.
and it's just kind of floating out there. So, and a lot of companies these days, I think, they haven't even implemented like an official intranet or official governance or anything yet, and they turn around and all of a sudden they have hundreds of sites from all these people
Yeah.
creating them. So I was inspired by that, and sort of the frustration around that. And when people are now a site owner, and anybody can be a site owner, and they have no idea what that even means or what that entails. So
Yeah.
it's the ability to have an email that you send to new site owners that just have some really basic, simple few things that you need to know about the fact that you're a site owner. And then it's only a 20-minute session, so I can't get into the technical part of how
Yeah.
you would implement that. But I plan on talking more about that in Power Hour. Because
Yeah, that's a really good topic because that is so common. I mean, I've
Yeah.
walked into a lot of situations where that has happened.
You
and
can have a
now
running
trying to work
SharePoint
through-
list of
Yep.
all those people.
Yep.
Make sure they've taken a quiz or something,
Exactly.
and
Checks
shut down
and
their
balances.
site if they don't.
Yeah, with a certain amount of time. Yeah, like if your site hasn't been modified within a certain amount of time, it gets shut down. Like an email that basically tells them all those kind of things. It's really, really helpful.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah, that'd be a great session. So check that out, everybody.
Oh yeah, our biggest governance challenge was the creation of groups and the idea of an owner. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what Trevor says. That is so true.
Because it was out there and people started using it like crazy, and then there was no chance to kind of. So now it takes a lot of time for a lot of people to kind of circle back and start tracking and figuring out and deleting, and it really does take some management if people have been allowed to kind of get out there and do whatever they need, do whatever they wanted for like the last year or two, Yeah, it's really important for sure
Yeah.
to get a handle on it.
Yeah.
And I'm sure we'll see more tools. I imagine I saw some stuff in the admin center with analytics that they were talking about this week. But I assume we'll get more tools to make kind of managing those things a little bit easier, expiring them and that kind of thing. So,
Random thought of something completely cool that I saw Jeff talk about in his session yesterday: being able to write your signature in a PDF file directly and sign a PDF file directly in OneDrive.
oh yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
That is
That
really
seems like a
crazy.
really common requirement.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like you have all those tools that do that, right? Like the Adobe tools and stuff
Yeah,
like
I
that.
was wondering if they went in with Adobe to do that, or what
Didn't
the
they
heck that
mention?
is. They
Wasn't
have
it?
some kind of partnership with them.
Yeah, I knew that like last year, right? There
Yeah.
was some mention, but I never heard anything like kind of coming out of that. And if you
Yeah.
guys have, feel free to mention. But yeah, I didn't see.
It was one of those just quick things that he went over. It's
Yeah.
like, what?
That might be maybe the beginnings of whatever
Yeah.
they're working together
Yeah,
and
that's
doing.
true.
So that's really interesting.
What else?
So Steve says they have a group called Switched at Birth. Just the random. I have a customer I've been working with recently, and I saw some really random like planner names out there, like personal tasks. You know, you could tell by the way they named it. It was like so and so party or something, and it was like, oh yeah, this they didn't know that this was going to be visible to everybody. Yeah, I'm looking to see here. Are there any chance you direct me to links that show me how to save a site template which can be used across? Oh.
Okay, Mandy, so that doesn't exist. That's not
Yeah,
a
sorry,
thing.
Mandy.
So, but they did just announce that you're going to have the. So there's this thing called site designs.
Site
And
designs,
If
yep.
you have a site design, a site script, that's what like defines this template of a site you're creating.
Right.
But they just announced they're going to have the ability to take a site that already exists and
save it, right?
click a button that turns it into a site
Design.
script.
Yeah. The
Site
JSON
design, yeah.
piece.
And therefore, instead of having to know how to write XML, like Joelle
JSON,
and I have had to figure out
Yeah.
to do a couple of those, then
Yeah.
you'll just be able to click a button, which is
Yeah. And that's like
huge.
that's not one that's unfortunately though I don't think that's coming. Do you know how soon that was? If that was
I
like a
don't know.
roadmap? I think it was a roadmap from what I saw, like a little bit
Oh.
further out. But it's good to know. I mean, one of the biggest challenges is even with site designs is that you can't do web parts. You have to do something with like an Azure function to be able to like go call a PowerShell script that would add web parts to your site design. Site designs
Oh.
can do lists, libraries, navigation, connect to a hub site, a couple other things, some permissions, but they can't add a web part to a site. So I think that if that will answer that, if that, being able to save a site as a site design, if that answers the thing about
Yeah.
web parts, then that would be fantastic
if it already,
because
if it already
that's a
has
big
them.
problem that a lot of people are running into. All right, let's see. You want me to go look and see what else we haven't talked about here? The multilingual support. So
Oh,
the
yeah.
ability in communication
Pages.
sites, to have the different multilingual pages and then have that drop down up in the right-hand corner. You click to switch between languages. That's really cool. They kind of showed a very quick demo of that, and I haven't been to any sessions.
And they're gonna so a lot of companies like big customers of ours
Yes.
that have that do already have multilingual sites, they have someone that does speak that language that will review it
Yes.
or they'll actually be translating themselves to put it up there. They're reading over it. You're not just running it through a Bing translator and then
Right.
just having it out there. But what they did was now instead of when you have page updates that need to be made, they're made in the main language and they need to be translated to the other ones. It's now going to just tell you what the update was in the and give you the verbiage in the new language that needs to be put and exactly where, so that the person doesn't have to rewrite and like read through the whole page to see what needs to be translated again.
Yeah. That's really cool. That'll
Yeah.
be very helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah, pushing that. I mean, I'm sure that'll be big for any company that's dealing with the multilingual, because multilingual has always just been a headache. It's always been so hard and such an overhead thing. So that'll be great.
Yeah.
Let's see. I'll take a look real quick. I know somebody asked about any big changes to Power Apps, which I'll hand over to you in a second.
It is Power Apps.
Power,
now.
yeah. So it's, let's actually, sorry, Todd, but I'm about to correct you. It is Power Apps. Sir.
They announced something called environment variables.
I'm just playing around.
That's one of the big things that they announced recently is environment variables, and that means so if you're in-depth Power Apps person and you have worked a lot with variables and you have maybe common things that you use as variables across multiple Power Apps, or this gives you the ability to have environment variables, which you would just have a central place where you manage those.
Yeah.
And then any changes would just automatically go out to the Power Apps that reference them.
That's really cool.
So there haven't been any drastic changes to Power Apps, Canvas apps themselves.
Yeah.
I mean, a few little
Well,
things
they've
that
been
come
doing,
out.
yeah, and they've
just
been doing like
gradually.
some like
Yeah.
UI changes like throughout the
Yeah.
summer. I remember
Yeah.
you like mid class, like you know, like oh the whole UI just changed.
Yeah,
So
they
I think
changed
they're-
a little pop-up when you're picking a data source and just stuff
Yeah.
like that that's already been out there, but nothing drastic.
I did see you could do at some point you'll be able to do document library forms like inside of SharePoint with Power Apps. Like you'll be able because you in the past you haven't been able to
Oh, right.
manipulate
Customize
those
your,
forms, you know, where you upload a file, so that you'll be able to do that with Power Apps. I
Oh, yeah.
noticed, you know. I
So,
saw that.
speaking of document libraries, we talked a little bit about Project Cortex, which is that sort of AI
Yeah, yeah.
that's going to be really reading and understanding all these files and being able to divulge information from them. So Jeff Deeper did this demo yesterday where he had an empty document library, and he took this set of, it's basically like, think about Microsoft Word forms that people fill in,
Yeah.
or like
Oh, I know.
just
Yep.
around your company,
I remember that.
or PDFs that people that are very similar, stuff like that. And he dumped them all into a library, and the library automatically created the metadata columns. And
Got the form ready. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
and so it just automatically divulged what the metadata was that
Yeah.
they had filled in the forms. Because there are those Word document forms everywhere, and it
Oh,
is
yeah.
so like, you could go through the trouble of creating a Power App of whatever that big, long, complicated Word form is, but
Yeah.
if you can just drop it into a library and have the library just extract out the information
The
that
OCR.
you need.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah, that'd be extremely helpful. Yeah.
that'd be nice.
Cut down on a lot of time for people for sure. Because like he was saying, there are still a lot of paper
Yeah.
processes. You know, there's
Uh-huh.
some things that just, whether it's government situation or you know whatever, that they just can't get away from being fully paper or partially paper, if you will. So yeah, that's super helpful. That's really cool.
Have you heard about the new UI flow, the stuff that it's a new flow thing?
No.
So I think Microsoft's come to the realization there are a lot of companies out there with lots of big, complicated spreadsheets with macros in them. And
Yeah.
I've even noticed that I've been doing a big migration for a banking customer of ours. And I noticed that they have a ton of these, and the accounting department has a ton of spreadsheets that are XLSM, and they have all these macros. They're doing like major financial things in their spreadsheets. And so now Flow is going to have this Flow piece that's like a gateway that sits on the computer, but it's kind of like recording macro.
Yeah, I did see something about
Yeah.
this now. When you said the macro, I was like, oh yes,
It's
I remember
like-
thinking like, oh, that's basically like newer macros.
They get offended if you call it a
Yeah,
macro or
yeah.
refer to macros because this is so much more advanced than
Yeah,
that.
it is super more advanced. But I mean,
Yeah.
the same concept, right? Where you're recording
Yeah.
actions, so like,
Yeah,
you have
you're
to understand
recording,
why
like,
people relate those things.
Went to this cell and typed this and looked at this information and typed it in this cell, and then
Yeah.
and then those become actions in a flow.
Yeah, that's
and you can
incredible.
automate all that. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that'd be really helpful for the, like you were talking about, like that customer that, I mean, there's still so many things where they
Yeah.
do a lot of processing of data in Excel, so yeah, that'd be really exciting.
Yeah, so
That's very
they
cool.
came to the realization, I think, that
Between the Word
they're not
thing-
going anywhere. Those spreadsheets are not going anywhere.
Yeah, between the Word forms you're talking about and the Excel spreadsheets, like, you know, you have to come to what the people need, you know, bring
Yeah.
that, and I think that's helpful, you know. Of course, you know,
Everything,
digitizing is awesome,
every piece
but
of data can't be in a database.
exactly,
Or in a SharePoint
It's
list.
just too much data.
And accountants don't know.
especially with the
Accountants
cost.
can't put
Yeah.
lists of stuff in database. Like, you don't always have like developers that you can throw at
or power users,
to
or you
create some sort of custom app for whatever they're doing in their spreadsheets. Spreadsheets are awesome. You can just make them do whatever you want and have all
Yeah.
these fancy, like, accounting transactional information.
Yeah, exactly. Especially with just the whole thing of the common data service, and you know how frustrating and at times that can be for people that are power users. So that'll be good.
Let's see.
Yeah, let's go through it. Getting
Mandy
some comments.
says, I have a forums project starting with loads of Word type docs. So, Mandy, go into web.powerapps.com right now and go to the little AI, click the little AI builder on the left. And it is in there right now. Like, you could say you want a new, it's called the Forms Builder or something like that. And go try the Forms Builder. So what it's going to do is you have to train it. You have to dump in a bunch of forms and train it to learn what your forms have, like what your Word documents have. And that is where you can start defining, what people do in forms like that to use the AI. Now, I have no idea how much that costs.
Yeah, that's the other thing.
I don't
We
know if
haven't heard
that's
those.
part of the per user versus per app plan or
Yeah.
what that's going to be. So
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think they've, because it's in preview. They haven't really
Made their
gone
decision of
into
what plan that's
details
going to be a
about.
part of, and yeah, Steve mentioned a part 2 of this power would be good after Ignite. Yeah, and I think typically what we do, Steve, is we go through everything while we're here, and then once we actually get our hands on some of these things, because like anything else, there's always gotchas and there's little tricks and quirks. So once we get our hands on some of these features and stuff, we'll definitely do other power hours to dive into them. I think we did that with hub sites, right? We talked about hub sites at a very high level, and then we did some like in-depth, like here's how it actually works. So we'll definitely do that again over the next few weeks as these things roll out.
Brad says, my root site is modern communication already. How do I enable it to be a new home site?
I'm imagining that's going to be in the admin center, but I have not seen it yet. Yeah, I'm imagining that they're going to put that as an...
Instead of people clicking the SharePoint, going to the underscore layouts, whatever, you would want that to be your new
That's what the home site is.
page?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think that's coming in. And also what I saw, so you guys know, we talked about this on a power hour a couple weeks ago, is the root site swap. So I don't know if you saw
we
that.
Did
that
a
that
whole
is
power hour about that.
Yeah, so that is actually for you guys that aren't able to use PowerShell. That's coming to the UI.
Yes.
So that'll be there'll be like a swap root site or change root site or whatever.
Replace. It's
replace,
like a button that says replace, I think.
And you'll be able to actually do that in the UI. So that'll be helpful. You won't have to go into PowerShell and try to run that script.
Oh, and they announced a whole bunch of cool announcements. Speaking of SharePoint admin,
Yeah.
in the admin center right now, when you click, select one site, you just get a certain little few things that you can do. Like you can see who the site owner is.
Yeah.
Maybe. And you can see the URL, and that's about it, like the size and some stuff.
Yeah.
But so you know how in the users thing, when you click on a user, it's got this whole panel that comes out with all the stuff about the user and all the tabs. Well, this is going to be like that, but for a site. And it's going to have all the members, the description, everything about the site.
Right in the admin
Right
center.
there. Holy cow.
Yeah, that'll be very helpful instead of having to go dig and dig and dig.
Yeah. Yeah. As a previous SharePoint admin.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, home sites are already in there, Jeremy. I don't know if I can. I don't know if I'm going to try and share my screen, but they are. If you go to go to SharePoint and click the SharePoint button at the top, that's the new home site. I think I looked in 2 or 3 tenants the other day, and I looked in 3.
So you can
and
start
2 out
replacing
of the
that?
3 had it.
Oh, okay.
No, I was just talking about it being there.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, just it looking different. It just looks different now. Now it's too slow with trying to do the streaming.
Yeah, we're streaming, so it's hard to see.
But yeah, but it has rolled out to most of my tenants I've seen. And the main difference you can tell the new home site is that the left navigation is missing.
Yeah, but you can now the whole thing is I thought the home site was where you could take your internet home and make it that, replace it.
Yeah.
So I think what he's asking is where do you go to switch, make your internet home
that.
I
thought that was a different question. Okay, yeah. No, yeah, I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah, I think
but
it's
probably
going to be
in the see what it looks
center.
like, is it is there.
Yeah. Yeah, the new SharePoint home is definitely out there, should be out there. But the home sites that they're talking about, where it's like this special home site that you put there, that's the making that putting it there is the thing that I'm not quite sure about, because they just are saying it's released and I haven't gotten to play with it.
Oh, okay.
Okay, there's Jeremy put a link in there.
Put a link. I'll let you click on that.
Yeah.
They also did announce a new modern managed metadata.
Yes. Oh my gosh, that was huge. So I've been telling customers they haven't updated the term store. I don't know what that means. Is it going to go away? But then they just came out this week, and there's going to be a brand new term store. So they're going to take the term store and modernize it. And then they're also going to have, which was what I thought was pretty cool, because it was something that I used to have people ask for a lot, was analytics. So you'll be able to actually see, where is the term being used? How often is it being used? All of that kind of data about, the term. And I think they're doing that because the term store is going to be a part of the Cortex, I
Yeah, I was
believe,
going to
right?
say, like,
yeah,
isn't Cortex going to be populating the
I
term
think
store
so.
for
It's going to
you?
be kind of a part of
And
that.
then you could kind of curate it. So you could still easily, for big companies, you could still easily have an entire full-time position
Yeah.
of the curator
Yeah.
of the
A
of
librarian,
the metadata.
basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Let's see. I was just looking at this home site thing really quick to see where they say about where you can do it.
Yeah, but if you want to see your home site, like it will be there if
Yeah.
when you click your SharePoint logo. Maybe there's just an edit
Yeah.
button on there if you're an admin.
There might be an
haven't
edit
looked.
button,
I
yeah.
was doing screenshots for my session that I'm doing tomorrow, and I was like, where did the navigation go? What is this? Oh, it's the new home site. Okay.
Yeah, it's something we'll have to do a power hour on that specifically,
Yeah.
and just kind of show you guys how to work with that once we have a chance to play with it, since it's not
And
getting
Stacy,
released.
that's a good question. Can you roll up hub site news on the home site? Not sure off the top of my head. We'll
I
have
would
to dive
imagine
into that.
yes. If you have I did notice they have a news web part, and the news web part has that feature, has that ability to roll it up. So I would imagine. Yeah.
Todd says, is there going to be different licensing for Power Apps and Flow, Power Automate? So the new licensing model that they announced just last month is what is in place. It's going to be in place. So all the Canvas app, Power Apps, Canvas apps, and flows based on SharePoint, like the stuff that Joelle and I do like all day, every day, just Power Apps and Flow on SharePoint data. None of that licensing stuff affects that at all.
Yeah.
It doesn't affect SharePoint with your SharePoint connection, SharePoint as your backend data. So Power Apps, Canvas apps with SharePoint, you're good. It's where those other premium connectors come into play. That's where you're going to start paying extra.
Exactly.
So that's going to be, and where you get to pick where you want to have a per app or per user license, and that's where it gets tricky, and I'm not really sure what it does, because it doesn't apply to me.
Yeah.
So but so anytime you want to go use a connector that has the word premium next to it, be aware that that's going to be an extra charge, and you're going to be
Require
paying.
a different plan.
Yeah. And there is, when you go like open a flow, and you click on the flow, like main screen of that flow, there's like the little edit button that lets you see kind of the name and the description of the flow. It's got an option in there that says per user or per app. I don't know what the choices are, but that's the little licensing thing.
Yep.
But again, if it's SharePoint data, you're good.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, licensing is a little like that show, Legends of the Hidden Temple. I don't know if you guys ever saw that show, but it's very hard to navigate.
Yes, I agree about them going to lose all the SQL users, Stacy. I totally agree. Or the people that are building things and putting it in SQL will have to start putting it in a SharePoint list. That's just not feasible for...
No.
Yeah, not feasible
for
like
actual real
SQL apps. Yeah.
Yeah. And then somebody asked about the content type hub. Yeah, no mention.
No one even mentioned content types at all. At all.
But then again, I used to say that about the term store, and then look what happened. I used to be like, well, they're not mentioning the term store anymore. I don't know what that means. So who knows what will happen. But yeah, not yet.
But they did mention enterprise-wide templates, like PowerPoint templates and Word templates, and having that, being able to have just push that out globally. And that, to me, a lot of that is instead of the way we used to do it with the content type.
Well, even just like for a while now, you've had in the library where you can like add a new template, like just manually go in, hit add, and upload.
Right.
And they've done. I think that's kind of replaced this idea, and I think there must be kind of, I'm assuming, maybe an understanding that content types are just templates, and not what people are used to with like the list content types and those things. But yeah, unfortunately, no mention. So I don't know how much effort and time I'd put into planning those right now.
Yeah, I kind of stopped as I've been creating solutions over the past like couple of years, year or two. I've kind of stopped going to the trouble of creating content types for things like I used to. But
yeah, and as they improve querying stuff, like as they improve your query options and search and stuff, it makes it less needed as it used to be.
So Stacy, if you already have 30 apps connected to SQL Azure, they are actually going to grandfather a lot of apps in. They're grandfathered in till like something like a couple of years out.
Yeah.
So my husband read that somewhere. I'm not sure Well, I don't remember what year it was, but they are grandfathering in apps that already existed before they made this announcement.
Yeah. And Craig, you mentioned news and setting up managed properties. So with the managed metadata, I did see them say that they'll allow you to, like, especially if you have like you want to roll up news from all your, some different sites by like metadata, you'll be able to use that managed metadata as like a filtering. So right now in your news web part, if you hit this site, you have like the ability to do a filter on metadata. But if you click and do like your news web part, the source is like the hub or all sites or specific sites, and it's pulling from multiple, that filter goes away. However, what they've said is that's going to be available, and then you would be able to use like managed metadata to roll up, different by news by different terms and stuff. So I did see a mention of that, just so you know. I'm not sure exactly what you're looking for, but it might be something to, it doesn't require just managed properties anymore, so that'll be helpful.
They updated the lookbook.
Yes, and it's the lookbook. If you haven't,
we did a whole power
we've
hour
talked about
it.
Yeah, we've talked about it quite a bit.
It is. Let me get that, because I can actually got the URL. It's lookbook.microsoft.com. So
yes.
It's not even. It says SharePoint Lookbook when you go to the page, but it's lookbook.microsoft.com. So I'll put that in the chat for y'all to check that out. What they did was they added a bunch to it. They added a bunch more templates because they realized that people like this, and people need a template, and they need to be able to see examples. So they just put a whole bunch more templates out there, and I love the way the little interface of the page kind of spread out flat like that, and the web part split out, and it explains what every web part is. We just did something recently for a customer like that, where we customized their stuff specifically for them, and did
their
like
template in that same format. We were like, oh, we like this lookbook. Okay, we'll just take a look.
And they thought it was awesome.
Yeah. It looked really good. So, but yeah, it's really, and the thing that you guys have to remember, especially for those that aren't developers creating custom web parts, is that those web parts they're using are all out of the box web parts, like the ones that you see in the lookbook that they're showing you, and that it reminds you that there are so many different, like every web part, not every web part, but a lot of the web parts have different layouts and formats, and if you change up, like if you have links here and links over here, you can have two different layouts for them, and then they look really dynamic and interesting, and they're not just the same list over and over. You know what I mean? Like it kind of helps you realize how the layout things in the color sections.
I'm not a creative
like
person, so it
me neither. Not a designer at all.
Oh, by the way, hopefully you don't still have any custom master pages in your SharePoint Online. I can't even fathom that people could still have custom master pages, because they change stuff so often. Like, it would break your master page every week.
Yeah, exactly.
So, by the way, master pages are not a thing anymore.
Yeah, they're not. They did talk about something called Fluent, which I didn't get too much into, which sounds like a new way for people to be able to do design, like, actual designers to be able to do design without, like, the master pages and everything. So I haven't had a chance to dig into that, but if you are somebody that's interested in the branding side of things, and doing some custom branding, look into the Fluent that they mentioned. And I think it was called, I'm making a note of it. Let's see. Yeah, Fluent Design System.
Oh, okay.
So I just want to mention that for anybody out there that is into branding.
I'm putting the, did y'all hear about the modernization scanner? I'm typing it.
Yeah, no, I'll answer Craig real quick. He said, will power user be able to do it? I think you're talking about the term store. To establish the managed data property. So if the term store hasn't changed functionality-wise, there will be there's always a site collection term set. Like, you have your overall term sets, the global term sets that sit on the top of the term store, but then you have your site collection term sets, and you should be able to do that if you're a site collection owner, like if you own your hub site or something. As long as they're, like, I haven't seen the new terms store, so I don't know if they're changing like the functionality of it, but if the structure is the same, then you do have a site collection term set, and you could put terms in there that you could use, across or whatever. But yeah, I mean, it depends. You can actually have your admin add you as a term store administrator, and then you don't have to be like a global admin or SharePoint admin. You can just be an admin in the term store.
Or you can even be an admin of a specific little group
of a set.
A set.
Yep, exactly. There's just a couple options there. It might be helpful to talk to your IT person about just that. I just want this very small little power. of I don't need the SharePoint admin. I just need this one like little area.
Yeah. Oh, speaking of things that Microsoft has come to this realization that people are doing with the old ways that people are doing things with documents and macros in Excel, they've come to the realization that people have thousands of info forms and SharePoint Designer workflows. We're not in denial anymore that they were ever used. They are out there.
Yep.
And so there's this modernization scanner that they, at that session today at 11:30, they talked about how it will actually scan your whole tenant for Power Apps, and I'm not Power Apps, InfoPath, and SharePoint Designer workflows, and it gives you this very, very detailed, like Power BI type of readout with specifics and statistics, like to see if, do we have InfoPath anywhere? Is it being used? So it tells you the actual usage of everything, of those old workflows and forms and things like that, so you can know exactly what's going on out there and what you need to go ahead and invest in to get that stuff up to you. Have 6 more years.
Yeah.
Till 2026, that stuff won't be supported
it's
anymore.
Gone. Yeah. So definitely, that's super helpful.
That modernization,
those large environments, especially the workflows, because I feel like the forms maybe can be found, by just clicking around, but the workflows are very hard to find unless you go dig, So that'll be super helpful when you're migrating your, like running that on like let's say if you're migrating a site from classic to modern and you run that, you can find them and and there's of course some of the pay for tools do that too, but this will be helpful to be able to do that without having to pay, for ShareGate or something like that to do that scan. So that'll be helpful.
Yeah, I want to go run it just as soon as I get
home.
home,
just to see exactly what the analytics look like and everything. That'd be really cool.
Well, I guess we need to start wrapping up.
Yeah, I think we have. We have about 10 minutes left, I think, right? Or they might want us to wrap a little early just to get somebody else in here.
Well, no, we have the little.
Yes, we do have something that we wanted to say. Do you want me to say this?
Yeah,
or you want
sure. You have a good voice.
No, I don't. But yeah, basically, we of course want to thank you guys for joining. We know this is not our normal step-by-step tutorial type sessions that we do, but we do like to kind of chat with you and tell you some of these updates. There is even more we didn't get to, but as I mentioned earlier, we'll definitely take some time to dig into these things, try them out ourselves, and then do deep dives into some of these things, like some of the big changes and stuff, and show you those on Power Hour in the future. And hopefully I'll be able to join Power Hour a little bit more with these things too, like I can help with that. But we're joined on camera,
on video,
So as you guys know, we recorded this here live at Ignite, and Microsoft would like you to know that they are giving away some Surface earbuds. So if that's something that you're interested in, you can go ahead and enter to win those Surface earbuds at aka.ms/podcast sweepstakes. And URL is case sensitive, so we'll put it in the Slack channel. And you have until December 15th, 2019 to enter for those Microsoft Surface earbuds. So that's AK, you got that? You can see it. /podcast sweepstakes. Yeah, it's uppercase P.
Let's see if it.
Yeah, because it says case sensitive. Oh, case insensitive. I'm sorry. It would help if I could read. That would help. So yeah, so case doesn't matter. I'm just not reading it right. I'm used to if they mention it that it's case sensitive, so I just assumed
this is
instead of reading. I know, right? But yeah.
Give you a soundbite on why people should attend Ignite. It's really the networking.
Yeah,
it's a community.
I wish we could take the camera out and show you all these little community areas where people are getting to know each other and they're chatting. They really set up. The expo hall of course has our vendors and we all know they're over there and we appreciate them because they help make it happen. But the other side of this expo hall is literally set up for community, and I think that's really cool.
We have puppies.
There's puppies. Come on, guys. Honestly, there's the soundbite. There's puppies. But also, just being able to get in, hear about these big changes and stuff like that. This is a conference that doesn't do the big deep dives like you would see at the SharePoint conference, but you get to kind of get the big releases and all the community and that kind of thing.
And over and just down this way in the center, the whole backside is all Microsoft booths of all the different products. So you could actually go up and talk to a Power Apps product team person and ask them questions about Power Apps, and you can see like just these personal demos, all these little demo stations everywhere. Oh, every single product you can imagine. They have,
they have it.
Everything from Xbox to Azure to, I mean, everything in between.
Yeah, definitely.
So that's fun. It's the talking to people. It's not. If it was just the sessions, then I mean, you could watch the sessions live from home. It's the getting immersed.
It's the exactly, immersion. It's like going to the Diagon Alley. We were talking about Universal and how it immerses you, you know, puts you in Harry Potter. It's like, this is like, you're in SharePoint, you know.
Cool.
But no, it's really cool. And like Laura mentioned, in case you didn't hear that, you can watch the streamed versions of these sessions. So go sign up and check that out, because you'll get some more deep dive information than some of our updates.
Yeah,
so.
Just on Microsoft's website.
Yeah.
Ignite website.
Yep. Tech community, I think. But yeah. Awesome.
Great. Thanks
so
everybody
much.
for watching us. If you're here, if you're nearby, we're going to be giving out a whole.
Yeah, I'll be here for a
like
few minutes.
A huge suitcase full of T-shirts.
Laura is lugging a suitcase around Ignite, you guys. That's how much she cares about you.
We have T-shirts we're giving out, and they say Power Apps, not Power Space Apps.
Yeah, don't judge. We didn't know.
So they're old. We got to get in flow. We got to get. Anyway, all right. Yes, Lisa, they're streamed live during Ignite. So yes, they are free after Ignite, but they are live right now. Like, I was in my hotel room putting on my makeup this morning, watching a streamed live session as it was going on.
And I think they do keep them available for a little while, but I'm not sure.
I think forever. Like, they're going to be out there. Is it going to be a while? Because the 2018 ones are still.
Oh, they are?
There.
Okay, well, there you go, Lisa. Yeah, I wasn't sure. I haven't checked. All right, well, we're getting a warning. We got to go. So we'll see you guys later.
Over now. Thanks for coming.
Bye.
Delay.